There are stories that change your mind and stories that change your breath. This one may change how you walk through the world. Tonight on The Modern Mystic, we enter the quiet brilliance of the monk's secret stillness in the mountains, not as a figure in history, but as a mirror to something sacred inside you. If you've ever longed for peace, for clarity, for purpose, their story may become your own. Have you ever felt the weight of your own thoughts, heavy, like a fog that just won't lift? Maybe there was a morning when you woke before the sun, listening for something, even if you didn't know what it was. Maybe silence pulled at you, asking if life could be different. That's exactly what the monk's secret felt too. A hush under the noise, a question so soft it only comes when the rest of the world has gone to sleep. Let's slip into this stillness together. Let your breath slow. Let the shape of your night soften. This journey isn't about leaving who you are behind. It's about letting yourself arrive closer than close to the center of quiet within you, the place where you recognize yourself in another's story and find a kind of home. You're invited to rest in the mountains' quiet, not the kind you visit, but the kind that finds you wherever you are. This is not just a story of the mountains or even the monk who walked there. It's about the rhythm of stillness waiting for you underneath every loud chapter in your life. People forget what it means to dwell in silence, and maybe you have too. Maybe stillness feels like something buried under emails, traffic, or the hum of city lights. But that's the miracle of this moment. Right now, you can lean back, let your body heavy into the bed, and let the story carry you home to yourself. Every word is just a gentle reminder. You don't need to fix anything tonight. The monk's journey is not a fable or an old lesson. It is something softer, a pulse that lives in the pause between your breaths. This story breathes because you are breathing. It holds the secret that nothing essential is lost, even in the hardest season. You haven't missed your chance to be at peace. The mountains are already inside you, holding a memory of quiet that never leaves, no matter where you live. So, are you ready to listen in a new way tonight? Not anxiously, not to remember every detail, but to be received by something gentle. As you listen, there might be a memory, a time when you felt closer to yourself, even if it was just for a heartbeat. Maybe you were a child running quiet through grass, or you caught the slow drift of snow as morning broke. The voice inside you, it wants you to know stillness is as natural as sleep. Tonight, as you rest with the monk's secret, let your thoughts settle like leaves in a pond. Notice the way your breath evens out as the story continues. There's no need to try. You are the honored guest in this monastery of night, welcome just as you are. Have you ever wondered what it means to belong, not to a person or a place, but to the peace under the surface of things? This story is your invitation. Every word is for you. The door to the mountains is open, and no one will close it. All you need is to listen and let yourself be led inside. There are stories that change your mind and stories that change your breath. This one may change how you walk through the world. As you settle in tonight, letting the day fall softly behind you, Know you're not alone, even in this dark and quiet room. Here, on the modern mystic, we brush shoulders with a soul whose silence became its own kind of masterpiece. The monk's secret stillness in the mountains isn't some distant legend or a name lost in stone. Tonight, his story is a quiet invitation, a mirror for everything deep and real inside you. Maybe tonight you come carrying something, stress from the day, a question you've tucked away, or just the old ache for more. You're not asking for much, just a little peace, a sense of direction, maybe a reason to trust the morning. If you've ever longed for peace, for clarity, for purpose, their story may become your own. Because underneath it all, the monk once stood exactly where you stand now, at the edge of the unknown, quietly searching for something real. Have you ever felt your own mind move too quickly, like thoughts racing ahead of themselves, pulling you away from the moment? Maybe there was a time when you looked out the window and wished for a pause, a way to just stop, to let the world settle. That's exactly what the monk's secret stillness in the mountains once felt too. Before he found the stillness, he wandered the same maze, a mind full of chatter, heart chasing after things that never seemed to last. He wanted a deeper breath, a steady place to land. What he found wasn't in loud answers or perfect days. It was in something gentler, something you can feel even now as you listen. It was in a kind of quiet that starts small, then fills the whole room like light at dawn. There is nothing you need to do to belong here tonight. Just listen, just breathe, and let yourself remember. No pressure, no test, just presence. Together we'll wander a trail through the monk's early days, where longing began, how peace first whispered his name, and the secret he carried all the way to the mountains. You might find pieces of yourself in these stories, the hope, the struggle, the small but real moments of surrender. And maybe by the end, you'll realize the same reality lives inside you. Because this isn't just a biography, it's a mirror, a slow awakening, a journey back to the simple, steady magic of being alive. Nothing more and somehow nothing less. You don't have to chase it, you only have to be here. So get comfortable, pull the covers close, let your mind settle and your breath become slow and easy. As we begin this walk, remember, this story is for you. And in these next moments, you don't have to be anywhere but exactly where you are. Let's enter the stillness together and see what your own soul wants to remember. There are stories that change your mind and stories that change your breath. This one may change how you walk through the world. Tonight on the modern mystic, we enter the quiet brilliance of the monk's secret stillness in the mountains, not as a figure in history, but as a mirror to something sacred inside you. If you've ever longed for peace, for clarity, for purpose, their story may become your own. Have you ever felt the world was just a little too loud? Maybe there was a time when you wished you could step away, off the map, just for a while, some secret part of you hoping deep down that what you're looking for is waiting in the hush between ancient trees. That's exactly what the monk's secret stillness in the mountains once felt too, not so long ago, in a world both older and just as restless as ours. He was born into ordinary days. He could have blended into any crowd, a quiet face, eyes just searching, always waiting for an answer that nobody seemed to have. The world carried on. Busy hands, thorny words, the shimmery ache of wanting to belong. Yet in the quiet corners when night pressed close, the whisper came, the feeling that he was waiting to remember something. He grew up under the weight of everyone else's certainty. Every morning people hurried past him, uncles trading stories about harvests, neighbors clinging to the same routines, mothers measuring out rice. People talked about what needed to get done, what they had lost, what came next. But the monk, even as a boy, walked his path a little slower, letting his toes meet the dew, letting birdsong join the rhythm of his own heart. No one knew the longing he carried. It didn't have a name. It wasn't just loneliness. It was an ache for something beneath all the noise, a love that didn't twist or break, a peace that didn't disappear with sleep. As the years slipped by, he tried to fill the ache the way everyone else seemed to. Stories, tasks, expectations. Have you ever done that too? Have you tried to patch the hunger in your heart with someone else's answers? But still, in the center of every gathering, some part of him was far away. He felt the sharp edges of others' pain. He felt the heaviness that people wore like a second skin. He became familiar with the silent ache at tables and in empty rooms. Maybe there was a time when you saw the world through his eyes, wondered if there was a doorway to a quieter place, a softness the city couldn't touch. Maybe you understood, deep down, the relief of imagining a life less tangled, less caught up in the rush. That's what kept the monk moving forward, years before he even knew why. Tonight, as you listen, let yourself drift closer to this memory, closer to a story that is both his and yours. There's something gentle waiting here, whispered from mountain stone to dreaming heart. Let's begin. He was born as you were born, with hunger, breath, and hope that he wasn't alone. There are stories that change your mind and stories that change your breath. This one may change how you walk through the world. Tonight on The Modern Mystic, we enter the quiet brilliance of the monk's secret stillness in the mountains, not as a figure in history, but as a mirror to something sacred inside you. If you've ever longed for peace, for clarity, for purpose, their story may become your own. Have you ever felt a longing you couldn't quite name? Maybe there was a time when you woke up in the middle of the night, the world soft and quiet, and felt the weight of everything and nothing at all. Maybe you've wondered if you would ever feel rested or understood or found. That's exactly what the monk's secret stillness in the mountains once felt too. Breathe with this story tonight. Just let it move with you wherever you are. Picture someone born into the endless wave of city noise. Maybe not the loudest child, but the kind who noticed shadows crawling across walls, who watched dust motes float in sunlight as if they were miracles, who listened, always listening, for the silence under the sound. They carried a quiet ache that never quite shaped itself into words. It hummed under their skin. While other kids sprinted across playgrounds, This child would pause and watch the wind fill the branches overhead. Instead of shouting to be heard, they learned the secret music between laughter and silence. Some adults called them shy, others a dreamer. At night, when the city lights flickered on, they'd lie awake and listen to the low hum of traffic, wondering where it all ended, if anyone ever really found peace in all that noise. Maybe your longing sounded a little like this. Maybe you've carried questions you couldn't ask out loud, or felt the ache of wanting more without knowing quite what more was. The monk lived years in that same in-between. Sometimes, in the middle of a crowd, they'd find themselves tuning out, heart searching for a sound, a sign, a space untouched by the world's parade. It was as if their spirit was pressing, quietly, against the walls built by routine and expectation. Sometimes moments would soften, a corner of a cafe where afternoon light looked almost holy, a hushed stairwell echoing old footsteps, the gentle touch of water on hands. These fragments of stillness flickered like secret lanterns in their memory, hints that something real and deep waited just behind the surface. Days carried on, but those silent invitations grew stronger, whispering the promise that peace was not only possible, but already living somewhere inside, just beneath the surface, waiting to bloom. If you recognize any of this, tonight is meant for you. Stay with me. Let your breath slow. Let the ordinary world soften at the edges. We're about to begin the journey into the mountain. Imagine there are stories that change your mind and stories that change your breath. This one may change how you walk through the world. Tonight on The Modern Mystic, we enter the quiet brilliance of the monk's secret stillness in the mountains, not as a figure in history, but as a mirror to something sacred inside you. Maybe you're here because the day was too loud, or there was a moment, hours or years ago, when everything felt tangled and fast. Maybe somewhere inside, a steady, wordless part of you keeps asking, is there another way? If you've ever longed for peace, for clarity, for purpose, their story may become your own. Have you ever felt like the world expects you to run, to produce, to keep moving, even when your heart wants to pause? Maybe there was a morning when you woke up and a quiet ache pressed just beneath your chest. You hid it, brushed your teeth, poured your coffee, and stepped out that door to meet the noise of the world. That's exactly what the monk's secret stillness in the mountains once felt too. There's something ancient in all of us, a curiosity that looks up toward the slow-moving sky and wonders, what would it feel like to simply be? To wake and sense your own breath, to notice each detail, to let the world may have its weather, and let yours be calm. We look at mystics and sages and whisper, if I could only touch a piece of that, as if their gift belongs to some lonely, unreachable summit. But that mountain isn't out there. The stillness isn't locked inside ancient stone. Tonight, as you lay down your burdens, as you loosen your jaw and slow your own pulse, I'll share with you the story of a soul who chose another rhythm, a man both ordinary and rare, someone born from longing and shaped by silence. We'll begin where all journeys begin, just inside the longing for more, for less, for something real and gentle and unbreakable, even as the world swirls and blurs around us. You don't need to strive to follow, just listen. Trust the story to meet you as you are in this soft place between waking and sleep. Let's walk together, step by step, into that secret of stillness that lives in the mountains and in you. Let your breath follow mine, even if just for a moment. You are here. You are safe. You are welcome. And where we're going, it's already in your heart. There are stories that change your mind and stories that change your breath. This one may change how you walk through the world. Tonight on The Modern Mystic, we enter the quiet brilliance of the monk's secret stillness in the mountains, not as a figure in history, but as a mirror to something sacred inside you. If you've ever longed for peace, for clarity, for purpose, their story may become your own. Have you ever felt the weight of the world sitting on your chest? Maybe in the morning when you wake up and everything feels a little too heavy, as if just getting out of bed is a victory you weren't sure you'd win. Or maybe it washed over you at night in that space between thoughts when the house was quiet and your own mind grew loud. Maybe there was a time when you saw someone. Maybe it was a stranger. Maybe it was you in the mirror and wondered, is this really how I want to keep moving through my life? That's exactly what the monk's secret stillness in the mountains once felt too. Tonight, I invite you to meet yourself again through the unseen story of a monk who walked away from all the noise, only to find that the real noise was never outside. It was the quiet inside his own chest. Feel that. Right now, as your breath slows, as the day loosens its hold, you and I are about to travel somewhere deep, not to a monastery locked away in stone, but to the living edge of a mountain where a tired soul once sat down just to listen. You don't have to believe in magic or miracles to walk this path tonight. You just have to listen and let what's real in you soften around the edges. Because underneath it all, the work and the chatter and the tiny fears, there's a hidden stillness that waits for you, for all of us. It's the secret we forget and remember every single day, the one the monk's secret uncovered, breath by breath, step by step, alone, and somehow, together with all of us. So get comfortable, let your eyes close, or let them drift. Nobody's watching you tonight. Just breathe. Let my voice hold you like a friend, like a gentle breeze coming in through a half-open window. We're about to begin, and wherever this story takes you, remember, this is also your journey now. Something will soften if you let it. Something might open, maybe just a little, maybe everything. Tonight, you'll hear about pain and longing, about what it means to look for answers and stumble into questions. You'll hear about the cost of silence and the gift of it, about letting the mountain teach you how to listen inside your own skin. And as you settle in, let this be your invitation just for tonight to forget about the to-do list, the notifications, the job, the noise. Let yourself listen for the whisper within a whisper. Because when you finally find stillness in the mountains, you find yourself. And if you find yourself, even just a little, you change how you walk through the world. Let's begin. There are stories that change your mind and stories that change your breath. This one may change how you walk through the world. Tonight on The Modern Mystic, we enter the quiet brilliance of the monk's secret stillness in the mountains, not as a figure in history, but as a mirror to something sacred inside you. If you've ever longed for peace, for clarity, for purpose, their story may become your own. Have you ever felt like the world was noisy, even when everyone was silent? Maybe there was a time when you stood in a crowded room and your mind begged for a place to rest, or a morning when you opened your eyes but wished you could close them again and step into stillness. That's exactly what the monk's secret stillness in the mountains once felt too. Stay here, just for a while. Let yourself drift toward their world, a world where quiet means something deeper, and every breath is a bridge back to yourself. Long before anyone called him a monk, before any wise words found their way into someone else's journal, his life began on a hillside that caught the first light before it touched anything else. A house tucked under the wide, waking sky. There was often a wind, gentle and cold, carrying the hush of distant mountains into the folds of sleep. He was a quiet child, but it wasn't shyness, just a sense, deep down, that speaking took him further from something he wanted to remember. His mother noticed how he'd rise before the birds and slip outside, toes numb in the dew, just to watch the sun lift up the fields. He listened for a rhythm underneath the ordinary, like the world was always breathing and inviting him to join. But in those early years, silence wasn't always peaceful. It could press in, thick and lonely, especially at night, with only the creak of branches and his own thoughts for company. There was the ache of not understanding why noise lived in his chest even when the world seemed calm, why he felt restless in moments that others called peace. He'd watch other kids run and shout, scatter themselves across grass and time, as if they belonged everywhere at once, but he always returned to the edges, searching for something simple and whole. Sometimes he'd sit in the kitchen and watch light pool on the rough wooden table, tracing shapes with his finger, pretending they were maps. He asked questions with his eyes more often than with his words. Where did the light go when it left the room? What happened to the warmth when day was done? His father once told him, "Some boys are made for the wind, some are made to still the wind." He didn't know which one he was yet, but he carried those words like a pebble in his pocket. The mountains loomed in the distance, impassably old, impassably still. On certain mornings, they faded into the clouds and returned by dusk, like gentle giants shifting in their sleep. He wondered if the secret to quiet was hidden inside them. Every family has moments that mold us unseen. There were arguments, and there were quiet dinners, and sometimes the long silence between the two felt heavier than both together. He learned to listen, to breathe in and breathe out, and let the world's noise pass through like wind through pine needles. Yet, even in confusion, a sense of wonder thrummed beneath every moment. He knew the quiet had layers, that every silence held a message, waiting for someone gentle enough to hear. In this hidden ache, he grew not away from longing, but into it, letting it become a lens for everything bright and uncertain about being alive. The first spark came as quietly as a hush at dusk. He couldn't name the shift at the time, the mountain air colder, his breath suddenly visible, the hush of snowfall turning the world silver. He was 12, standing in a field that seemed to forget the rest of the village. A single bird lifted from a branch, wing beats slicing the air, silent but for the hum it left behind. In that moment, every thought stilled. The ache in his chest flattened out, then softened. He felt for the first time that there was a rhythm beneath his thoughts, a soft and steady presence waiting. Time didn't stop, but it stretched. The world didn't vanish, but it blurred at the edges. For a few seconds, he was just a boy standing in the presence of everything. He started to wonder if maybe stillness didn't come from being quiet, but from letting the world move through you without chasing it. When he walked back home, he wasn't empty or lonely. He was washed, as if the air had cleared him of every question he'd carried since he could remember. That evening, his mother noticed he didn't fight sleep for the first time. He let his head rest and drifted off easily, not because anything special had happened, but because he felt listened to, even by the silence. The memory became a quiet place he visited in his mind. The cold, the bird, the pause between two wing beats. It stayed with him like an invisible guide, and every time life felt too loud, he'd go back there just by closing his eyes. With every new year, he tried to live closer to that memory. He spent hours at the edge of fields and rivers, letting his thoughts run themselves dry. But the world did not make it easy. Each season brought more responsibility, more noise, and more expectation. His father fell ill one winter, and fear gripped the house like a second frost. There were long days spent waiting for news, and even longer nights sitting close to the fire, pretending warmth was enough. Grief is a strange thing. It moves in and rearranges all the furniture in your mind. He shut down, turned inward. Where the spark once lived, shadows grew instead. At school, his teachers called him lost or distracted. He wrote his worries in the borders of his notebooks, trying to make sense of what he couldn't say out loud. The more he searched for stillness, the less he seemed to find it. When he tried to meditate, the ache got louder, not softer. Even the mountains looked farther away. He stayed awake at night, breath shallow, rehearsing regrets and what-ifs. Sometimes he wished he could just walk out the door and keep going, never looking back. The pain wasn't dramatic. It was quietly devastating, the kind that makes you want to disappear for a while, to see if anyone notices the shape of your absence. Yet something kept calling him back to himself. Maybe it was kindness, maybe curiosity, or maybe just the simple need to breathe. He'd sit with his sadness, not craving an answer, just letting it be a companion instead of an enemy. Over time, the suffering didn't vanish, but his fear of it softened. If the world was going to be loud, he'd let his silence be a refuge, if only for a few minutes at a time. A turning point rarely announces itself with fanfare. It was an afternoon like any other, clouds gathering in the blue, the air thick with the possibility of rain. He walked the old trail behind his house, shoes muddy, jacket zipped tight against the wind. On a bend in the path he stopped, suddenly certain he couldn't pretend any more. He sat down, hands pressed to cold earth, and asked, not aloud, but in the center of his being, what he should do with his longing. An answer came, not in words, but as a deep pulse, a sense that he didn't need to leave, to run, to change the world. He needed to sit, just be. He stayed there for hours, breath slowing, eyes tracking clouds crawling past the sun. The ache didn't leave, but space opened around it. For the first time, stillness felt like something you could move into, not just wish for. It was there, hidden in every breath. Something shifted. He went home changed, not because he'd found the secret, but because he trusted there was one to find. In the months that followed, he started living differently. Every morning, before the world woke up, he'd sit outside, spine straight, attention soft. He noticed how each breath made the early mist shimmer, how the pulse of his heart echoed in the hush. When he walked, he moved slower, heels rolling through the earth, steps quiet and sure. He talked less, but listened more. He felt the curve of every day, the subtle push and pull between noise and peace. He found new comfort in routines, chopping wood, tending the small garden, boiling tea leaves while the window steamed up with fog. Work was no longer just a task. It was a chance to notice his own presence in the middle of action. Even when days were hard, when blame or loss clouded his mind, he would return to the breath, the body, the place where stillness waited. The world felt softer, wider somehow, and in time others noticed the change. People came to him, not for advice, but to sit in his company and let their own noisy thoughts fall away. He became a presence as much as a person. His calmness was something people borrowed just by being near. He never called himself a monk. Others gave him the name, but he wore it like a borrowed jacket, grateful and unburdened. Mastery never looks like what you think. It wasn't robes or rituals, but the way he could breathe through chaos, return to stillness in a crowded room, or notice the shape of pain without shrinking from it. There was a day when the village flooded and neighbors scrambled to save what they could. He moved among them quietly, carrying buckets, soothing children, speaking only when words were needed. Someone asked how he could stay so calm. He smiled, not out of pride, but humility, because it wasn't effort. It was a practiced return. Every challenge was another chance to remember the mountain's secret. That stillness is not what you avoid, but what you become. He kept showing up day after day, letting storms pass through, letting laughter return. Each moment was its own teacher. If a bird startled, he watched until it settled again. If a friend cried, he offered his presence, not solutions. Over time, his life became a living rhythm, work and rest, grief and joy, giving and receiving, woven together by breath and patience. The hidden laws he followed were nothing written down. They shaped him quietly, like water shapes stone. He moved in sync with seasons, waking earlier in spring, conserving energy in winter. He ate when hungry, slept when tired, let his moods rise and fall like the weather, trusting their impermanence. He honored pauses as much as action, knowing that every full breath is a small beginning. People asked him for guidance, but often left with better questions. He'd teach by example, showing how to wait without impatience, to choose gentleness over force, to notice the world breathing as one with you. He was never above the messiness of living, but his steadiness was a kind of silent invitation, reminding others that they too could be grounded, at home, in their own presence. If his soul could speak to us now, in the hush of your room, it would whisper, breathe. Even when you can't fix the noise around you, your breath is always here, arriving as a gift. It's how you remember the rhythm of life, in, out, beginning again. Don't wait for the world to be quiet before you listen for your own calm. Stillness is something you carry, not something you find. Let it sit beside your struggles. Let it lighten the heaviest thoughts. You do not have to outpace your pain, only move gently with it, like walking beside a stream. Trust that longing is a doorway, not a problem to solve. Every ache wants only to be touched with softness, not pushed away or cured. There is wisdom waiting for you on the other side of presence, in whatever shape it takes tonight. And every day, remember, presence is more than being alert. It is being at home, in your body, in your longing, in every quiet heartbeat that says, you are already enough. Now, as the mountains breathe in the dark, as you listen from the quiet cradle of your bed, stay with the breath, gentle and unhurried. Let this gentle mantra arrive. Like light flickering through the trees, I remember the stillness. I remember the stillness. I remember the stillness. I walk with presence. I walk with presence. I walk with presence. This is also my path. This is also my path. This is also my path. Every night, the world gives you back to yourself. Every breath a homecoming. Rest now, knowing there is nothing more to do. You have always belonged. The stillness is here. Your story and the monks, woven together, breathing as one. There are stories that change your mind and stories that change your breath. This one may change how you walk through the world. There's a reason you're here, right now, drifting between wakefulness and whatever comes next. Maybe you've been searching for a different kind of story, one that doesn't just fill your head, but pours something gentle and grounding into the bones. Tonight on the modern mystic, we enter the quiet brilliance of the monk's secret stillness in the mountains, not as a figure in history, but as a mirror to something sacred inside you. If you've ever longed for peace, for clarity, for purpose, their story may become your own. This is for the tired dreamer, the quiet rebel, the one who senses there must be another way. Maybe you've sat up late, feeling the world rush by outside your window, wishing you could catch stillness like you catch your breath. Have you ever felt the ache for something real, something deep, but just out of reach? That's exactly what the monk's secret stillness in the mountains once felt too. There's a time of night when the world softens, almost as if gravity lets up just a little. That's where we begin. Not with someone grand or a legend everyone knows, but with someone much like any of us. Someone who woke before daylight and wondered if this was it, or if, somehow, more was waiting past the horizon or inside their own chest. The journey isn't about running away from life, but stepping so deeply into its rhythm that stillness, real and steady, rises up underneath every noise. Tonight, you'll hear the story, but more than that, you'll feel a presence beside you. One invitation whispered, "Come closer." Maybe there was a time when you felt ordinary, but some corner of your heart kept singing about mountains you couldn't see, or a season when even silence felt too loud, and all you wanted was to remember who you were before the world told you who you should be. This story is your companion in that space, holding up a lamp not to point ahead, but to make peace right where you are. So settle in, let the quiet wrap around you. This night isn't for answers, but for remembering. No matter how tangled the day, this moment is a pause, a soft opening. If you listen closely, the mountain is speaking, not out there, but within. The presence in these words is a friend, a guide, a reflection of your own longing for a life lived deeper, wider, softer. With every breath, with every pause, let yourself surrender to the slow unfolding. Because the truth is, the monk's secret was never just his own. Maybe it's yours, too. Let's begin. There are stories that change your mind, and stories that change your breath. This one may change how you walk through the world. Tonight on The Modern Mystic, we enter the quiet brilliance of the monk's secret stillness in the mountains, not as a figure in history, but as a mirror to something sacred inside you, a pilgrimage within, toward the sort of peace you thought you'd lost somewhere on the road, or maybe never quite found at all. If you've ever longed for peace, for clarity, for purpose, their story may become your own. Have you ever felt the weight of all the doing, the rushing, the restless hunger to know what comes next? Maybe there was a time when evenings felt like watching the sun fall into your chest, golden and slow before the noise crept in like a shadow, dimming something bright you never bothered to name. That's exactly what the monk's secret stillness in the mountains once felt too. Can you let yourself settle right now, just listening? Let the night fill with possibility. The mountains, really, are everywhere. You don't have to see them with your eyes. Sometimes you only sense them, waiting in the far blue distance or tucked behind your heart. It's said that stillness can echo louder than thunder, but only if someone remembers how to listen. Tonight, let's find the rhythm of that stillness together. Inhale, and slowly, gently, let it go. Once, long ago, there was a boy who listened more than he spoke. His world was small, a valley where silence stretched further than the path to the schoolhouse. His name, not important yet, because this could be anyone's beginning, could be yours. He saw things most didn't notice. The way the mist held the hills at sunrise, how the river's song made a restless ache settle in his chest. His family kept to the old ways. They rose before light every morning. Tea, steam curling up, slow rituals passed down like precious stones. But even then, the boy felt as if something was missing, something just out of frame. He was gentle, loved the open sky, sometimes slipped out after chores and sat beneath an old maple, tracing patterns in the air, quiet as a falling leaf. The grown-ups said he was just a dreamer, said, "You need to toughen up, learn how the world spins." But each time he tried to rush, his spirit snagged on the day, like a sleeve torn on wild roses. There's always a longing before the story really begins. Maybe you know that longing. Maybe tonight you feel it sitting softly beside you. An ache for something unbroken, something that lets your chest open again. So the boy grew year by year, listening to wind, to others, to his own heartbeat. There were days when he wanted to belong, to fit in with the loud ones, to fill his mouth with clever words and easy laughter. But all that effort just made the silence afterward feel sharper, more luminous. At night he'd lie in bed, staring up at worn beams, listening to the hush. He wondered what lived between breaths, what it was to be swallowed by stillness instead of loneliness. Have you ever felt there was something invisible calling you? Something not outside, not inside, but everywhere, like rain, mist, or sunlight dancing on water. He did, even when no one else believed in that call. This is where we begin. Tonight we take that soft ache, set it inside our breathing, and follow the monk's secret, step by step, toward the mountains within. He was born with a longing for something deeper, something that could not be named. Every year brought new lessons, pain, joy, doubt, delight. But under it all, a single thread ran, an urge to find what others seemed to have forgotten. The world called him strange, but each night he felt the presence of something greater. You listening now might carry something like this. Maybe it's a quiet sadness or the memory of a gentle wonder. As the story moves, just remember, every longing is a lantern. And in the soft hush of this night, by the end, maybe your own lantern will glow a little brighter. So let us begin the journey. The story doesn't just unfold. It arrives like the dawn, soft, certain, and unwavering. Welcome to stillness in the mountains. There are stories that change your mind and stories that change your breath. This one may change how you walk through the world. Tonight on the Modern Mystic, we enter the quiet brilliance of the monk's secret stillness in the mountains, not as a figure in history, but as a mirror to something sacred inside you. If you've ever longed for peace, for clarity, for purpose, their story may become your own. Let's start with something real, something we all know. Have you ever felt that hush inside you, just before dawn or right after the world grows too loud? Maybe there was a time, late at night, when you wished away the noise and wondered if anyone else just wanted to be still. That's exactly what the monk's secret stillness in the mountains once felt too. Their story doesn't start at the peak, cross-legged in robes, with the sun rising above cold stone. It begins in a small, wind-swept town, one of those places where time moves slow, where everyone lives close and the sky goes on forever. There was a longing there, visible and quiet, living in the bones of growing up. The kind of longing that isn't crying or laughter, just a steady, wordless ache, a pull toward something softer than the world knew how to be. Maybe you've had that, too. The sense that what you're looking for isn't out there, but somewhere in the calm underneath it all. Maybe feeling out of step was never really about missing out, but about tuning into your own deeper rhythm. The monk's story was born in that same quiet ache. There was a mother who believed in tiny wonders, a father whose voice was gentle like dusk. There was emptiness and beauty, laughter and what felt like waiting. Every day pulled forward, simple but not always easy. There were chores and quiet dinners, windows fogged from breath in winter, and the secret pleasure of a heavy blanket at night, folding into that sense that, maybe, the world is a guest house and stillness the honest host. Even as a child, the monk grew up half in the world and half somewhere else, where thoughts move slow enough to watch, like clouds over the fields. No one knew then that a mountain would call, but you could tell sometimes there's someone inside who listens even when there's nothing but wind. Maybe you, a listener in the dark, have that same listener inside you, the part that never stops hoping for a quiet place, for something to hold you, not with arms, but with deep, unshakable rest. You're not alone. Stillness is not just silence. It is the music under words, the hum behind your heartbeat. The monk's story, tonight, might just open a door in you that's always been waiting, so come along. No need to force anything, just listen. Breathe slower. Rest into the long arc of a life shaped by longing and by the soft, living presence inside mountain silence. Let everything that's unresolved relax just for now. Here in this story, you might hear your own footsteps. You might feel your own heart remembering. Sometimes all